So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to a very exciting panel discussion, which is at the frontier of innovation in this pharma industry today. In this new era, we see that data is the new oil, and our industry today is at a cusp of a major transformation. Uh, Today, the panel is going to discuss about how we can harness technologies such as big data, AI, generative AI, and the other new age technology to bring in digital transformation in our industry. Are these really the buzzwords, or they really the catalyst for innovation and growth across the pharma value chain? Today with us, we have eminent panelists who have diverse and deep expertise in these technologies, and we'll be listening from their experiences, and they will help us understand some of these questions, how the pharma company is adopting some of these new age technologies and also navigating some of the challenges. So I think with that, let us just start our discussion from Raja. Raja, what do you think? How is Roche using some of the technologies such as big data in drug discovery, and also, moving from drug discovery also in the personalized medications?
Thank you for that question, Asha. First things first, I'll answer the earlier part of the question that you asked. These are not buzzwords anymore. They probably were when they got started and everybody just tried to go jump on the bandwagon, but now they went into the mainstream also. Due to regulatory concerns, because I'll not be able to speak the specifics, but
Sure.
I'll add to colors to the points that you mentioned. Let me talk about the second part of it, which is personalized healthcare part of it, which is where we tend to be at the forefront of innovation. Years ago, somebody got unwell, and what's the treatment? Very simple. You go to a doctor, two people have fever, same crocin given to both. Very, very uniform treatment pattern, etc. With AI and all of the other technologies coming in, there's a lot of push for personalized healthcare. And what's personalized healthcare? Very simply, starts with the most basic thing, like making a genetic map of an individual. Just because two people are Indians or Maharashtrians or closer Puneits or closer from a particular, does not mean, for that matter, even if they are from the same family, does not mean the genetic makeup is the same. Now, AI and related technologies can play a pivotal role in ensuring that you have this genetic makeup of an individual. And of course, from that flows a risk profile, if that's the right way of putting. And now you have a personalized map of an individual. Starting from this start point, every single aspect, like what kind of, if somebody reports some challenge, etc., what kind of treatment options that exist. This is personalized individual to individual. From then on, not just the drug, which itself is different for the same symptoms of two individuals, what kind of dosage is to be given. That itself is personalized, because you give Dolo 650 mg, I'm just taking some name, to two individuals. It could be very high for one and low for the other, which is why we see all these reactions and all of these. Personalization is where the dosage itself is controlled. So from the path to the medicine to the dosage to along the way how the person is reacting, personalized, to prescriptions which change along the way, to care, to aftercare. Sometimes symptoms are gone, everything is forgotten. No, you need to retain it so that the history gets built further and all that. All this is what we call as personalized healthcare. And I think the presence of technologies like big data, AI, and Gen AI that you mentioned right now have played a key role in ensuring that this personalized healthcare is off to a next level. So I would not see these as buzzwords anymore, but as entering the mainstream. To the earlier part that you mentioned, I'll touch upon it a little bit, where you asked about drug development. Well, that's another big animal. Developing a drug is almost like finding a needle in a haystack, probably even more complicated than that, given the number of options. The presence of Gen AI and all that, while not making it any easier, makes it a little bit more quicker because of the presence of the computing power, the options and all that available. The complexity of the problem is not killed, but the options that you have at your disposal to tackle the complexity are a little bit higher. So that's how I would read it. In both those areas, yes, they've entered mainstream.
Discovery process, and definitely it is making more personalized care and treatment.
Very much
But
so.
at the same time, Mandar, I would like to understand from you, what do you see? Either this is from a multinational company perspective. Now let's understand what about an Indian company perspective, and also try to understand how do you see, use of technologies like, AI or even Gen AI in fast tracking clinical trials or making more meaningful insights out of the data which is being generated. So over to you if you would like to share.
Yeah, thank you. I think you brought in a good aspect of Indian companies, right? Because we in India are, more famous for frugal innovation. We want to use innovation in a manner that actually shows an ROI before we make any investment, and that is where I think there's a big debate going on within the industry. There are a lot of fence sitters still in India about AI, and that's because the cost of implementing these solutions, the infrastructure, the model development, the data generation itself is a very, very mammoth task. And especially in India, where companies are still behind on completely digitizing their processes, we are having a dearth of electronic data. We don't have enough data to feed these models. These AI models are highly data intensive. They consume massive amounts of data. And in order to get that data in a quality manner, you need to have years and years of electronic data getting generated. Only then will you be able to feed these models and then come up with something useful. So I think that context is very important to understand when we talk about Indian companies. And I think we are probably a few years behind the rest of the, at least the advanced market countries and the companies from there in adoption of AI in a big way. But we still are doing that. I mean, in a sense that when you look at AI, I look at it in three stages. One stage is where AI is being used for marginal small productivity improvements. It's like small things. People are using RPA and then using AI and then generating some insights which are then actionable. Even Microsoft Copilot, for that matter, is a productivity improvement. Very small, like 30-minute, 5-minute improvement in your productivity can be done using these kind of small, quote unquote, snackable tidbits. That's at the base, just for productivity improvement. That can be democratized even today. We can give it out to everyone and they can start using it. The next level is what is called expert AI, which is where you start using very complex predictive models and then generate some insights that human beings would not have been able to generate at all. And that is where I think the data intensivity comes into the picture. We are starting to adopt it, but we have to do a lot of investments to generate enough data, quality data, to be able to use these predictive models to come up with actionable insights. And then the third level is where generative AI comes in.
Sure.
And that is when you want to create new content and something that human beings can create, but it will take a very good person to write a very good, a movie or whatever, or generate videos, generate images. So that is another place where I think there's a lot of progress happening today. Even today, we are using generative AI. There are a lot of pilots being run by everyone in clinical trials, for example, as you mentioned. There are opportunities for us to generate what we call ECTD, electronic clinical trial documents, which has a model, say a module 2, which is a summary of all the other modules. That can be generated automatically using generative AI because it just has to be fed with the other modules, module 1 to 5, and it will generate module 2 automatically. Those kind of areas are where you can use generative AI very easily,
Sure.
and it doesn't take a lot of time. So I would say it's not one broad brush that can be applied across. You have to contextualize it to your company, your need, your use case, and then go in and implement it.
That's very interesting. I think let's move up the value chain and try and understand, how it is really improving, how these technologies are really making our process, the operation part more efficient, and bringing in some real-time insights and real-time machine maintenance. So over to you, Pranav. What is your experience of working with this technology?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Nisha. So I think from operations perspective, pretty much I think I would add on to what Mandar said, right? I think the most important point is that we need to have the data in electronic format. So for Indian companies, especially like digitization, automation, I think everyone knows that pharma is a bit laggard within India.
Yeah.
So I think that is the primary goal, to have all your processes digitized, automated, so that you have the data which is of good quality. Once you have that, then you can start thinking about machine learning or AI and other things, right? So, but nevertheless, I think many Indian companies are into that stage now where they have good quality data. In our organization also, to a certain extent, we have that. So we are also embarking on the AI, ML and Gen AI also, some POCs we are doing. From operations perspective, I think the benefits are huge. Okay, so like predictive maintenance is one area within operations where I think AI plays a big role, because I think a lot of cost, I would say, is incurred on this regular AMCs and failure cost, right, which can be avoided if you can get real-time monitoring done, which can be avoided if you know like when you need to do the maintenance, like just in time kind of a thing, rather than scheduling it on periodic basis, even if it's not required. So that is important. So predictive maintenance is one area in operations where definitely it can help. The second area which I think definitely it will help is process optimization. So which is like batch optimization as they call, right? So that's more of a machine learning AI kind of a thing, where you can get the data parameters from the batch which is running, like temperature, pH, other things, and then try to predict how your next batch would be based on the past batch data. And that really gives a lot of benefit, like one from yield improvement perspective, second from quality output, because now you know how your batch is going to progress based on the parameters which are currently in the play in the operations. And the third point to that is the prescriptive part also. So one is predictive, when you know that a certain thing is not going right, but why it is not going right is the prescriptive part. So that is also helped by AI, because now it knows that, okay, based on your past data, that okay, if the pH is going outside your golden tunnel, like what we call it, right, then what is it that is causing it, what you need to add or what you need to reduce to make sure that it comes back in track. So those are the things which were maybe not possible, maybe very effectively earlier, which are now being possible because of the advent of AI and ML kind of things. So these are the two areas. Third area definitely is the quality, because we do continuous monitoring. So we have real-time data, so we know that where the faults are, not only from AI perspective, but also like when we use this augmented reality, VR and other things, right? That also helps for quality control as well as for the identification of any anomalies, those kind of thing. So I think a lot of technology can be used in Indian context also, and pretty much people or other companies have started using that. In our case also, we have started using that. One more thing you asked was on Gen AI. So that also we are doing a POC based some large language models. So that's not predominantly in the operations area, but nevertheless, with combinations of OCR and LLM models and all, there are certain things. Again, I cannot go into the details in the public forum, but we are doing some use cases on that also.
So definitely we are seeing benefits in terms of increased operational efficiencies, cost savings, and also improved quality.
Yes, so you get ROI pretty quickly. Okay, so if you do that right, and if you do it right, especially if you have good quality data,
right,
then the ROI is faster.
Absolutely. And moving up, the commercial part of it, so how do you see, and where do you find application of these new age technologies in your sales force effectiveness, or even post-commercial in patient engagements, and some of the partnerships that a company like Pfizer, is working on? So if you could throw some light.
Sure, Nisha. So I'll maybe take a step back and start with one of the key drivers, actually two key drivers which are leading to these things that we are speaking about, right? And Raja alluded to one of it, which is personalized healthcare. So one is definitely increased consumerism, and healthcare is not an exception, right? So these days, consumers, patients, they are looking for on-demand healthcare. And by on-demand healthcare, I mean these people are looking for healthcare at their own convenience, whenever they want it, wherever they are, right? That is one. Second, when you look at pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, right? Pre-pandemic, India as a country was largely driven by episodic-based care model, right? Today, we are in a preventive-based care models. People are very, very pro towards healthcare. They are taking care of their health. They don't want to fall sick. They don't want to end up being in a hospital, right? And the second trend that we are seeing is being in India, which is mushrooming with startups. Today, you cannot think of an company, MNC company, or an Indian pharmaceutical company who are not doing outcome-focused partnership just to scale, stay ahead in the curve, and sustain the game, right? Rather than reinventing the wheel again and again. So there is a lot of outcome-focused partnerships, incubation centers that are being created, which we are leveraging to really solve the problems at which business is facing, right?
True.
So with these two things in mind, couple of use cases that we see this are emerging, right? Is one is definitely these days the inpatient OPD discussion that is happening, right? When a patient goes to see a provider or a HCP, right? Healthcare professional. The discussions that are happening is being heard by an ambient tool. The discussions are being completely transcribed in a structured manner, which results in a diagnosis, prescription, follow-up appointments, everything, right? So which is again a very, very valuable use case, saves time, ensures that you do more productive discussion with your patients, right? Second is when we talk about connected health ecosystems. Today, pharmaceutical companies, they create a medication or a pill which largely takes care of a disease condition. But then there are a lot of chronic conditions like, say, diabetes, right? Which not only are resolved through a medication alone. And that is where the entire concept of pill plus plus comes in, right? Which is the entire lifestyle modification part, right? Hence, again, we tie up with a lot of these new age health tech, med tech companies to really get the data, which then helps us build the 360-degree view or the holistic view of a patient, right? To then evolve our drugs, right? And this information is coming through vital statistics, through the gadgets that we wear, iWatches, right? And then it helps using AI, the personalized care plans, right? It can be for a specific disease condition. It can be for multiple disease conditions sitting under one umbrella. Time to time, these nudges go to these patients, basis the inputs, which is data, largely data, and these plans are curated. So that is second. Third, I would like to give an example of a very, very internal Salesforce excellence you asked me, right? Where we have devised a solution for our field force, which is AI and behavioral science led, right? And it is personalized nudges that goes almost every week, twice, thrice, to help them focus on the day-to-day KPIs, focus on which brands they need to focus on, and also on the kind of visits. So you have a V1, V2, V3 doctors, right? I mean, first visit, 2 visit doctor, 3 visit doctors, right? So it helps them prioritize those. At the same time, for the line managers, it is an opportunity for them to really take care, handhold their teams on a day-to-day basis, providing real-time feedback, not waiting for month-end review calls to happen. And this system is like completely bases your past sales achievement, how you have achieved sales, and then it throws pictorial nudges to help you achieve your sales achievement and get better incentives.
That's very interesting. We've been hearing that how these technologies are being adopted across the pharma value chain, right from drug discovery to our commercial and post-commercial. But let me put this question to you. You said that, you take data from somewhere. So who really owns the data? There are certain challenges of holding the data. One is making meaningful insights, and the second part is securely managing the data. So let's understand now what are the challenges that we face in this while adopting these technologies.
Sure. So I think the patient or the consumer owns the data very clearly, right? And no pharma company is the real custodian of the data, right? We are not the custodian of the data. Custodian is the patient or the consumer. And hence, from I would say to drive adoption, we need to really take care of data privacy, right? Very well-laid data privacies when they are using any app. Options given to the patient or consumer to opt out any given point in time.
Okay.
We should make them aware what they are signing up for and how the data is going to be used by either us or any third party, right? So the essence is transparency, one, and the assurance. If we can ensure these two factors for the patients, we can drive adoption at any given point in time.
And same question is for you, Raja. What do you think? What are the ethical considerations or how do we navigate the regulatory landscapes? While we are adopting these technologies.
It's a great question. I think you gave a very good start to this particular conversation. A lot of companies, I think you said it correctly, the patient owns the data, but a lot of ethical considerations lead to organizations anonymizing the data itself so that it never can be linked back to the original source of the information. So for example, let's say you have information of about 30-40 people who are in the room right now, and the 5 of us. Every possible effort is put to ensure that you cannot trace any of the data elements back to a specific individual, and there's a standard ways of doing those kinds of things. Now, this takes care of one part of the problem, which is an individual coming back tomorrow and saying my data has been used for wrong reasons. So anonymization and all that is one part of it. Second, there are lots of data governance protocols which have come in. There's a question how well they are being followed by organization. That's depends on organizations' practices and all that. And there's also country guidelines in place. Some of the countries, especially in the Europe, are way ahead in terms of the kind of guidelines and regulatory policies that they have in place. And there's the second part of it. So the first one we spoke about anonymization. Second one which we spoke about enforcement through governance protocols, both at the country level and the company level. And the third that you alluded yourself to right at the beginning is about maintaining the privacy of the data. You can have all of those kinds of things, but if your systems are not at a level of maintaining the right level of privacy, you would soon find yourself, and you started the call by saying data is the new oil, but oil always has spills also. Whether it is spills in a real refinery, it damages the entire environment and all of the marine life, etc. If it's a ocean world, when you have spills in data, it damages the complete organization and then the trust of all the patients and the entire ecosystem itself. It takes a lot of time to rebuild those. So a combination of data governance protocols, structured systems, having the right quality checks in place, right tools like anonymization and so on and so forth, and very critically the culture of the organization itself, where it is not data and governance and quality and all of these are not treated as it's another department. The data governance team will take a look at it. I don't have to. Ability to build that kind of a culture that starts all the way from the top and goes up to the bottommost individual. So everybody starts recognizing the importance of these kinds of things is pivotal in ensuring that we have the right kind of methods in place to get what you're saying right now. So that is how I would rate as a scheme of
Just
things.
if I can add to what
Sure,
Raja said, right? The pace at which regulatory frameworks are getting evolved, right, is not same at which technology is advancing. So that's a key thing, right? And hence, I think as a solution, right, industry stakeholders, regulators, and the technology providers, they should meet very often to discuss these cases and then come up with frameworks, as Raja mentioned.
No, absolutely. So, Pranav, what do you think? How would you like to add to this? What are the other challenges? If you would like to add more from, the data
Sure.
privacy governance or.
Right. So I think privacy concerns pretty much, I think both of them have addressed. Like data privacy is a key concern because the data is owned by the patient. Right. So again, the previous question to me was more on operations. So maybe from that perspective, I will try to answer the challenges. And there, I think the regulation comes in, right? So if we are
Right.
using AI-based or ML-based solutions for optimizing our batch, which means that it has a direct impact on product quality. Now, it is very important for a pharma company to prove it that the way they are doing it is right and it's validated. Okay. So as he mentioned that the pace of regulations are not up to the speed of what the technology is currently doing, right? So I think obviously US FDA and EU JMP and everyone, they are working towards adoption of AI. There are many white papers which are written on that. But I think the full scale adoption of that from regulatory framework perspective is yet to be seen. So that is the challenge from operations where you are using this. So yeah, I think pilots and all we are doing, we are using it, but still we cannot completely rely on that. So there has to be a alternate way which is validated, which is still to be used, unless we can full with confidence prove it to the regulatory auditors that okay, what the output which the AI ML based tool is producing is right, it is validated, and every time it will generate the output which is in compliance to the regulatory requirements. So those are some of the challenges from operations perspective in using the AI and other things that I would like to make.
Let me pose a very interesting question to you, Mandar. So do you think, while modeling, while modeling for AI, there are some challenges, because are we trying to replace the human beings? Will that really happen? Will AI replace human beings? And how close we are? We understand Gen AI is an evolution or the next phase of AI. But what are the challenges that you see in terms of, becoming it more humanized?
Yeah, replacement of human beings, I think I'll pass it on to Raja. He is probably much closer to it, is what I heard. No, understanding that problem statement. But yeah, there are inherent challenges with AI models. We are all aware of that. There are certain biases that can be introduced into the model itself, depending on the kind of training set you use. There are, of course, assisted learning models, and then there are unassisted learning models. So if it is an assisted learning model, the kind of training data set you use itself introduces a bias in the model. Then if it is an unassisted one, the model learns on its own, and the generated output over a period of time will keep on changing. So when you are using the data generated out of an unassisted model, you have to also understand at what stage of the evolution of that model did you do this particular output. And again, the regulatory agencies are not yet 100% clear on the guidance on how to use these models, to what level of transparency you have to provide to the regulators on the nature of this model, or the type of training data set you have used for training these models. There are no guidelines, there are no regulations around that yet. On top of that, I think the level of validation that you have to do is also not informed. So even if you generate output using a AI model, the regulators might well ask you to do the experiment physically all over again, because they don't trust the output coming out of the AI model. So I think before we can actually use these kind of models to submit regulatory applications or provide data to the regulators, there will be a few steps of evolution. And it is always the fact, regulation always follows innovation. So it is in the evolutionary stages. I wouldn't call it a challenge, it's just a step that we have to take. But on whether AI will replace human beings, I think Raja.
I can assure you I'm a human and not an AI, so yet I have not been replaced, I can tell you. Unrelated to my job at Roche or my work at Roche, I am a neuroscience researcher. I studied in the US and then returned to India. So this is a normal topic on which I speak, mostly in the West, but of late also in India. Will AI replace humans? Those that are operational jobs, the liftman and all of those have already gotten replaced, and things like those I think will be replaced in no time. But if it's anything to do with innovation or anything to do with emotion or anything to do with intuition, each one comes from a different part of the brain. And there are a few more which I'll not get into in the interest of time. At the moment, no known technology has been able to master those. The reason is that all AI models are based on logic and the neural networks and all that. Humans, for good or for bad, don't run on logic actually. And as surprising as it is, there was a good research done. How many of your decisions are logical? You would say, I'm very logical. You'll be a little disturbed to know that 99.99 and a little more nines after that of your decisions are emotional, including your decision to whether to listen to me or no is nothing to do with logic actually. All are emotional, and logic in the brain is a layer to explain these emotions in such a nice way so you don't come across like a crazy character, otherwise you will start doubting your own sense. This is a little over 90 plus years of research, and I'm talking about very prestigious universities in the US that do this one. No known AI model yet has been able to get to this level of emotional thinking. In fact, that doesn't exist, etc. So there is no possibility of replacement with today's. However, a person using AI will replace a person not using AI. In other words, a person not using AI could have the job lost altogether. Likewise, a person who is afraid of AI will definitely get replaced, more because of the fear of the individual than AI doing anything to that individual. Likewise, a person who's overconfident with AI, I will conquer the world, will first get replaced because there is no rationale and no meaning to those thoughts itself. So that's the prevailing research. I won't go too late into that one. So you can have a relaxed cup of coffee after this, knowing that you will not get replaced very, very quickly.
And that's a very interesting take, and we have a promising future. So now let's just delve into our future. You know, we all are consumers of AI through our smartphones, you know, virtual assistants. We are already experiencing, you know, the speed with which they are, you know, they've come into our lives. So what really is the future for our pharma industry? You know, what the future holds for us? Let's, you know, again, start from here. So, Debashish, what do you think? You know, how do you see the future? What is most promising
Two technologies at least
Yeah.
when I talk about healthcare and pharma is telemedicine is one. Huge lot of use cases around telemedicine is AI based, right? And that is because I'm saying there is a large portion of underserved population, especially in remote areas. That is where telemedicine comes up front of very much useful, right? Where they can get consultation from top physicians sitting in far northeast, right? And especially life-threatening conditions like oncology, especially. Second area I would say is blockchain. Though we are still scratching the surface, but still I would say from a security and transparency standpoint, especially supply chain, blockchain has a lot of good use cases. We are still to see what the future lies ahead.
Interesting. How about you, Pranav?
Yeah, so I would also like to say that in future, like there is no escape from AI. Okay, we have to adopt it, and as I think Raja rightly said, those who don't use AI will get replaced with those who use AI. Okay, so I think in all aspects of like from pharma drug discovery, I think where it has already started being used till commercialization, post commercialization, in all aspects there would be advent of AI, ML benefits of that. Again, we have to work in the regulatory framework, and that will also basically enhance, and it will come up with new ways of how to deal with AI and the outcomes of that. But yeah, I think the future looks bright. I think the time frame is something which I think we'll have to see how soon we can start adopting it and how soon we are able to get benefits out of that.
Absolutely. Raja, again, what the future looks like for the industry and how soon we are getting into that future.
A few P's there. The first piece, prevent. 10 years ago, very few people went for diagnosis because the thought was, you know what, I'm fine, nothing will happen. People used to brag. I had never seen a face of a doctor in my whole life. That was a source of pride, you know. Oh, you going to a doctor for a fever? You must be crazy completely. So a pride moment was not being able to go to a doctor. And then after 50, they always were at the doctor or never survived. Now, COVID particularly has taught that the first is go for a diagnostic, which means plucking a needle or a syringe into your body and then doing these preventive checks might be super good in order to predict. So first P is prevention. The thought has come, at least in a certain section of people, that prevention is way more important than anything else. The second P, after you try your best at prevention, one day disease is going to strike. Then the next P that comes into particular in focus, which I think you said very correctly, is the predictive and prescriptive part of it. So first I'll come to predictive, which is you don't want to go the direction of no idea doctor prescribe some standard things and all that. No, you don't want to do that. You want to be on the side where there's prediction. So you have enough amount of data, there's things stored, etc. So things are able. It's much more predictable. You don't want to pop a pill and then wait to see the reaction of the doctor. Am I surviving or no? You want to have predictability in that particular thing, actually. The next P is prescriptive, which he said so nicely, which is not just that, but prescribe a little bit, go a little bit further there. So first, prevent if possible. You have tried your best at preventing, then predict and prescribe, like he says. And the last P is personalize, which means whatever is happening, it is not the same for me and my wife just because we are married, or me and my child because genetically we are the same. No, despite the genes being 99.9% same, the last 0.1%, the difference there has way higher impact than the 99.9% that is same. That's a new thing which is coming to genes. So this kind of personalization is coming. So prevent, prescribe, predictive, personalize. If these four are done well, the hope with technologies is the last P, which is peace of mind. You want to live peacefully. You don't want to, survive every day worrying what's going to happen and all that. That still happens, but then have a greater degree of peace of mind. So tech used correctly done. If the first four P's are done, I see a greater degree of peace of mind in people. And how close are we to that? We're scratching the surface. We're getting there. I think it'll take a fair bit of time to get in that particular direction, but we're going in the right direction is how I see it, actually.
Beautifully put in those 4 P's. Mandar, what do you think? What is the future like? And which are those technologies where promising technologies which you see would have a role to play in our industry's evolution?
Okay. See, I personally feel that we, especially in India, we are having one leg in the past and one leg in the future. So honestly, for us, the first step is to just adopt the future that has already happened in the rest of the world. So we have to just adopt the technologies that have become standard of production, quality, or whatever, commercialization. we haven't yet adopted that. So our first step is to adopt the future that is already there. And then the second step is being late adopters of this technology, like what happened in the telecom, for example. We went from a dial phone directly to mobile phones very quickly. If we can leapfrog that innovation in the pharma industry, I think what he said, the 4 Ps, we can actually probably get to that much faster than what the rest of the world has got to. So we need to do both at the same time. Get our foot, which is in the past, to the present, which is actually the future for us right now, as quickly as possible. And then keep on investing on the future of technology and adopting it, because we will now be able to leapfrog a lot of revolutionary steps that others had to go through. So I see a very, very bright future for India in adopting technology and making a revolution within the pharma space. We are, after all, the pillbox for the rest of the world. A lot of medicines are made here. So if we can adopt that technology faster, we will probably beat China or any other country for that matter.
So that means it's not all the hype. There is some hope of adopting these technologies. And with that, I think, these new age technologies, be it big data's convergence with AI, Gen AI, and the industry today, it's not just bringing incremental changes, but it's actually transforming the industry to rethink, reimagine the way industry has been looking at the problems, solving their problems, and bringing in more effective care. So I think with that, I would like to invite questions from audience. If you have any questions, for our panelists over here. Okay. So I think we are at the end of the day, and it has been a really long day. So with that, I think it's a very promising future for the industry. Industry has to carefully navigate all the regulatory challenges, ethical consideration, data privacy, governance to maximize the potential of these technology. And I think with that, I would like to thank my co-panelists for their valuable insights. Thank you all.